Well, collectors, here we are again. It's actually the Thanksgiving weekend in America, and it's really a very nice holiday where the family can get together and kind of think about the good things that happened and they can be thankful for. And I know for you European collectors, you may not know what Thanksgiving is, but it's been going on a long time in America, and it goes way back to when the Pilgrims came to America in the 1690s, whenever it was, and they had a heck of a time trying to live, and the Indians helped them get food, and so the story goes, and then they had a big break bread dinner together. But I don't know how true all of that is. I mean, it's sort of like you know yourselves how stretched the war stories are when they're only 80 years old. So I don't know about 400 years ago, but it is a nice tradition, and it would be a good thing for Europe to have that also, because it's a good excuse to see your family. But anyhow, it's Thanksgiving weekend, and I'm glad to be back here doing another seminar. As you know, we were at a show about 3 weeks ago, and that seminar was put up, and everybody really seemed to like it a lot. But now there's nothing to do until, well, February, I guess, the SOS show. So I'm going to keep doing these little presentations just to give you some amusement. It's been a tough year. Everybody knows with this damn disease going around, and I had my major operation this year, which was murder going through, but I'm glad that I had it. And then finally, my man Trump didn't get elected, so I'm not very pleased about that. But this is the way things are. But this time we're going to talk about fire department things. And before I get to that, I thought I would just show you a couple of other things. I showed you some cigarette cases in one of my previous seminars, and I thought I would show you a few more of those because I like them a lot. They're very interesting. I will start out here. I've always liked cigarette cases, and I think they have a lot of character to them. What you see here, this piece was obviously owned by an Imperial Flyer. It's a nice little silver box with the award on the cover of it, and it doesn't have a dedication or anything. It just has a plain inside. The elastic bands are going to it now, but it's very nice. The same is true of this box, which was worn by a pilot observer. You can tell by the insignia there. And again, there's no dedication, but it's still a nice box. The elastic is gone in there too. And then here's one that I particularly like, because it has a first model Luftwaffe dagger on it. It's the only one like that that I've ever seen, and no dedication, but the dagger kind of speaks for itself. And then the last one is a political piece. It's got quite a bit of jazz with it, with these brass inlays, and it has the man's name on it, Gerhard Schutz. That sounds like a pretty common name, but he looks like he was proud of it, the way he's got it engraved there. And it has a political eagle with an SA runes button. And again, no dedication inside, but just nice. The elastic is still there. And then I'll show you one more box that I really like a lot. This box, doesn't look like a lot on the front, but you'll note that the monogram there is AH, and when the box is opened up, it has a dedication from a very famous woman. Her name is Ellie Ney, N-E-Y, and she gave this cigarette case to Hitler in 1918. So you're all probably sitting there, oh sure, Hitler never smoked, what are you talking about? That couldn't have possibly been his cigarette case. Well, it was, and for your information, Hitler did smoke until 1919, when he threw his cigarettes in the river and quit smoking. Ellie Ney, she was quite a musician. She was extremely famous in Germany. She was a Beethoven piano player, and I should say pianist. And she was a big woman, big strong woman, and really banged out the notes. And Hitler was very taken with her. She was born in 1882, and then she started to do concerts beginning around 1910 or so, and those were the early years where Hitler attended a lot of concerts, and he got to know Ellie Ney very well, and she was a huge admirer of him, and she became a member of the Nazi Party immediately in the early 20s, and unfortunately she was an ardent Nazi, and she had won a lot of awards in Europe throughout her career. But after the war was over, she wouldn't give up her NSDAP feelings, and a lot of those awards were taken away from her. But that's how life is. But you might look her up on the Google, because she's quite an interesting woman, and it's interesting that she was so close to Hitler and that she would have given him this little cigarette case. I think it's a wonderful thing. It's original, and it's really fun to have something that was personally owned by Hitler. So with that, then I'll show you also, I like watches. I have a lot of watches, and these are all kind of neat things that this watch is from the period, and it still runs well, and it has a what do you call it, for the second counter. It's a beautiful face on it, and it's basically plain. Sorry about that. This is the one that this is a naval watch. It was from naval artillery, which you can imagine they needed to time the guns that were being fired. It's a very nice thing, and really runs well. This next watch is the one that's not marked on the back, and it basically has the same things as the naval watch, being the second counter along with the regular clock. And this third watch I like a lot because it was obviously owned by a Iron Cross winner, and he was very proud of his Iron Cross, that's for sure, and had a watch made with the Iron Cross on it. And I was able to find a nice little watch fob to make it really good. I don't think it's marked on the back, no, but it still runs very well. This third piece is actually a bed clock that you would put on your bureau. It's equipped with an alarm and so forth. And you say, well, who cares about that? Well, what's cool about it, if you look closely, you'll see that there's a swastika here and a swastika there. And on the top of it, it has a dedication, which, believe it or not, was for the winner of a golf tournament in Hanover in 1939. So if you thought the Nazis didn't play golf, you're wrong. This proves that they did. What, did I have it upside down? Oh boy. And then this last piece is also to go onto a night table, and it has a beautiful little face on it. But if the camera can get in real close, you'll see that it has the motto "Alles für Deutschland" around the second-hand dial. So this was a watch that was made for purchase by SA people. And then on the reverse of it, this guy must not have been an SA guy, because the SA eagle is on the back, but there's also a set of SS runes. It's also interesting too, when you look inside, it's like a pocket watch the way it's built. You see that? Really cool, huh? Runs like a charm too. I like that a lot. I just bought that a couple of months ago, and I've been thinking, should I sell it? And I keep looking at it, and I thought, I think I'll keep it. I like it. I just wanted to say a couple more things on Hitler was smoking. Of course, he gave it up, and he was absolutely dead set against smoking, and he tried to get the German army to not allow smoking, and they did quite a bit with putting signs up and memos and all that. But in those days, probably 90–95% of the people smoked, and it was a very difficult thing. But it's also interesting that the Nazi period, they actually linked smoking to lung cancer, even in those early days of the 1930s. I say that as I'm smoking, but this is, and some interesting things. If you're interested in what the NSDAP had to do about smoking, there's a book, The Nazi War on Cancer, by a man, Robert Proctor. And it's a very, very interesting book, and it has some kind of interesting statements here that I just want to take a second. I'm not going to bore you with reading a book on things, but it's just a couple of things where the Nazi medical and military leaders worried that tobacco might prove a hazard to the race, and Hitler intervened personally. Anti-tobacco activists pointed to the fact that while Churchill, Stalin, and Roosevelt were all fond of tobacco, the three major fascist leaders of Europe, Hitler, Mussolini, and Franco, were all non-smokers. So Hitler was really adamant about this. And he even said that the Fuhrer even suggested that Nazism might never have triumphed in Germany had he not given up smoking. So, and then along with this, he said with its subsequent neglect by, no, that's not the, well, it doesn't matter, but you get the idea there that. So an interesting read if you want to further look into that. So with that, then we'll start on fireman pieces. We're going to start with firemen's bayonets now, and probably a lot of you are groaning, oh, firemen's bayonets, who's interested in them? Well, actually, like so many things in the hobby, there's a lot of subtleties that you may not realize. They're normally in very nice condition, and they're relatively cheap also. You know, if you think about it, why don't collectors go after them? And the reason is no swastika. So that's probably the main reason. But whenever you're going to get into collecting anything, it's always great if you can locate a period catalog. Now I found this catalog years ago, and I've never seen another. And it has all the uniforms, insignia, weapons, etc. that were worn by the Freiwilligen Feuerwehr. That meant the volunteer fire department. And in this book, what's mainly of interest to us collectors, they actually show in color the straps that were worn with the sword, the brocade strap. That is the fire official's sword. It's a very plain sword, and I'll show you an example of that later. It also shows the fireman's bayonet, the proper frog, and the trottle. You can see they show two types of trottles. We see them both ways. It also has lots of other things, belts and cap cords and the shoulder boards. I mean, it's just a wealth of information. The helmets, there's the early helmets with the swastikas on them. How many people have told me, oh, that's no good, they never had a swastika on it? Well, there it is right in the catalog. So references like this are absolutely invaluable. They're just terrific because period references don't lie. What's in there is what they made. Also, Eichhorn made a brochure that was just dedicated to fire department things. These brochures are kind of hard to find, but they're great to have. And there you can see a fireman there, the guy up on the ladder. He's standing there with his hand on his hip, and he's wearing the sword, which maybe at this point, let me just show you what it looks like inside. There's the fire department sword, and this is the line of fire weapons that Eichhorn made. That's the leader piece, and these are the standard fireman bayonets. And as most of you know, after 1938, when the Police-Degen came out, these fire department swords were no longer worn. They were replaced by police firemen swords. But I'll show you what one looks like in the flesh. And this piece is, it's actually an Eichhorn too. It's identical to the one shown in the Eichhorn pamphlet, except it has a leather finger hanger, and possibly this was optional, or maybe this piece is just a little bit earlier than the one in the book, because the one in the book also has aluminum wire wrap, and this has kind of a real nice plated brass wire. But the sword was completely plain throughout, all gilded, same on the back side, and beautiful blade. And you can see on there's a Eichhorn trademark. I don't know whether you can see that or not. This is a sword that it's kind of a slow mover, mainly because people don't even know what it is. Now that you know this is a fireman's official sword, maybe you might want to acquire one of these, because they're very nice swords. So that's that. You know, like I was saying before, there's a lot of people, who wants to collect that fire department stuff? Robbie, my son, and I, we know a very nice man that always comes to the Wilmington, Ohio show. Chester, what's his last name, Rob? Larson, Chester Larson. I can never remember his last name. Very, very nice man. He only has 600 fireman bayonets. 600, can you imagine that? And he likes to collect them by maker. Sometimes they have supplier stampings on them. Some are saw back, there's long and short. And he's a great guy. If you see him at a show, go shake his hand and ask him to show you some of his bayonets because he's really got some beauties. So with that, we'll show you what these things look like. This is a typical fireman's bayonet. This is the long model. They come in long and short. This is the short model next to it. You can see that the hilt is the same. It's just the length of the blade. This particular bayonet is complete with the original hanger. Whoops, there goes our pictures, but we'll get them. It's got the original hanger on it, and it has the original throttle. These throttles were a leather strapping with either a gold or a silver wiring running up the leather, and then the ball was a combination of bullion and pink thread, and then they had a stuffing insert in the bottom. Most of the time it's a pink felt, but you also see regular, what I call cat's anus type stitching, but not as much as the felt. And as far as the blades go, they're typical bayonet blades, long, wide fuller, I should say. This piece is an acorn example, and it's in just about mint condition, and is about as nice as you want to have for your collection. But if you have a long one, then maybe you're thinking, well, maybe I should get a short one too. So they had the short ones like I just showed you. Again, the same type of blade, just a little shorter. And this example was made by Tiger. You can see that on there. Tiger's always a desirable maker because everybody likes to look at that cat going across the ricasso of the blade. And sometimes you'll see, say, yeah, on this one there's also a supplier stamp there too. So in other words, Tiger made the bayonets, some of the bayonets, and sold them to this supplier. And the supplier probably had a shop that was geared to firemen and police, and so that's how things worked. What I should point out too is that a lot of times with frogs on fireman bayonets, the frogs are normally just plain leather. For you collectors that collect etched bayonets, army bayonets, the frogs are rarely plain leather. They were all patent leather when they were issued. And of course the attic crazing got to it, and they're really in lousy condition. But for some reason, the fire department did not use patent leather. I suspect maybe it was a little more expensive or something like that. So usually on a fireman bayonet, you will see a standard leather frog, not patent leather. Going down a little further here, we'll look at another one. This is a short model, this one is unmarked. And the reason I'm showing that to you, I get so many emails all the time, oh, I want to buy this or that dagger, but it doesn't have a maker mark on it. And is it any good? For some reason, collectors think because it doesn't have a maker mark, it's no good. Well, it goes back to the same thing I was talking about a minute ago. A lot of small stores sold these fire department items, and you know, they just didn't want somebody else's name on the blade in their store. It's sort of like Sears. You know, Sears has all kinds of stuff, but Sears didn't make any of it, but they still have their name on it. So in this case, no name on the bayonet blade, and totally proper. Now next we'll look at a piece here that this is a long model with the portopee and nice frog. The portopee looks absolutely original to the frog. See how that's tied and it's all set in place from years and years. That's great when you see that. And then to add to the fun, this is a sawback model. The sawback models were available at extra cost. Anybody could buy one if they had the pocketbook to do so. This particular piece was made by Puma, It's a very, very nice thing, highest quality. I mean, these teeth just grab your finger just going past them. And the reason that they offered a saw back was to symbolize firemen being able to cut a beam out of the way or something like that, just symbolically. That's why they had it. I'll show you another one. This one was a Puma. This one is Tiger. They made these also. Beautiful, really, really beautiful. And it's complete with the knot and the frog. Now these are both long model sawbacks. But I'll show you then they also made the sawback in a short model. See that? Now what's interesting about this short model, look at the teeth on the blade spine, and then look at the teeth on the long model. See, they're much bigger. So they scaled down the teeth to suit the length of the blade. I don't know whether that's true on all makers, but it is in this case. So it's kind of an interesting thing. And here's a short model here that I like a lot, just because of the supplier marking. Look at that. It's a deer with one hell of a set of antlers on him there, and it just says Soligan. I don't think too many people have ever seen that mark before. I don't think I have. Isn't that interesting? So you can sort of, with fire bayonets, you can also get some of these supplier markings that are really rare and kind of interesting to look at. It's sort of like SA daggers with the maker marking. Now let's see what else we can show you that adds to the fun of the hobby. One more piece. This is probably the best bayonet if you're only going to buy one fireman bayonet. This is made by a company called L&E. And what they did, I said before, there's no swastikas on fire bayonets, but this hobby will always make you a liar if you say nothing exists, because L&E used the logo with their initials there and a helmet above, a fire helmet above their initials, and there's a little swastika in the helmet. I hope you can see that in the video. And then what also is cool, this particular frog is obviously original to the piece, and you can see on the back that it's stamped with L&E's full name and Bielefeld, which was the city that they were from. Isn't that cool? So that really makes for a terrific matchup. Can't get it? Well, all right, collector. So that's about what the regular bayonets look like. And next, I'm going to show you some other things with the fire department. These are officers' dirks. Now, senior officers in the fire department wore these dirks. They go back to probably the 1850s, and they're normally quite long, and the earlier they are, the longer they are. they're kind of usually seen in only two ways. The first way is the type of crossguard quillen ends that have like a spear tip on the end of the quillins. Can you see that? And the second type that you see will have quillen ends that are in the shape of a three-leaf clover. You don't have to know who the maker is. If you just know that, you'll know that this is a WKC piece and this is an Eichhorn piece. This is the way these two producers made their examples, and for the most part, they'll be the only maker marks that you see. In the case of this dirk, it still has the early hangers on it, and these hangers are really rare. They're little similar to naval hangers, but the lion mask looks a little different, and it's in silver. So very hard to find because, you know, leather, you know, it rots out over the years. And I'll show you what the blades look like. Normally they're a double-etched blade, which has fire department scenes on them, ladders and hoses and so forth. This particular piece, it is made by WKC, but you can see by the trademark with the knight head and the king head next to each other, that puts the vintage of this piece back to about 1898 to somewhere 1902, 1903. So that's quite an early dirk. The grips, incidentally, are made of a kind of a horn on this piece, and they have a pommel, which is the same as an early naval pommel. It has cattails and reeds resting over a cresting wave, only it's in a silver color. The leather scabbard is composition material underneath. There's no steel in them, and the mounts are kind of different, as the upper mount has both of the hanging rings on that. So that's the WKC version, and then the Eichhorn version is slightly different on the quillen ends, but the grips on the Eichhorn were leather covered and wired wrap, and you'll see the ribs run an opposite way. It still has a bull top, but not the naval style top that WKC had. This Eichhorn has an etched blade, and I don't know whether the camera can see it, but there's a mark there, just a single oval with the Eichhorn squirrel, and that puts that piece in the late 20s sometime. Now, you will see fire department dirks like this that will have Third Reich period Eichhorn marks on them, for instance, as well as WKC. You gotta watch out though. Eichhorn in the 60s and 70s reproduced a lot of these fire department dirks. And as I've told you before in the past, if the trademark is etched, you're in trouble. It has to be stamped. That's a period piece. And a Third Reich period fire official's dirk is a pretty rare thing. It really is. It's very rare. But desirable. I mean, they're good looking dirks. I'll show you another one here. This is going to be a WKC. Again, it has the horn type grip with the naval style top and the pointed crossguard quillins. And the blade is etched, beautiful etched blade, really, really nice. And it's really long too, it's a long piece. And this one is marked there. That's a more early 30s WKC marking. But look at the work in the blade, it's beautiful. The etching are just absolutely superb. And then I'll show you one fairly early piece. This one, it appears to be WKC, but the blade is unmarked on it, but it also has a different grip than you usually see, and it has a Prussian crown on the top. It's a relatively short piece too, and the blade is plain and is not marked. So you'll see a lot of different variations in this kind of stuff. And if you like to study daggers, I find all these things are very interesting. Like on the acorn pieces, for instance, the center of the crossguard box has an old fire helmet resting over crossed axes. You see that? You know, it's kind of neat. WKC didn't seem to do that, although this one has some flowers on it or something. But so you'll see a lot of different variations with it. Before we leave the subject, just like I like to do, this is a great picture of a very proud fireman there, fire police. He's got his fire police cap on and the town where he comes from on his sleeve. But what's really rare is, and go try and find a picture like this, it actually shows both cross guards of the fire bayonet as well as the throttle. So again, if you think I'm wolfing you, there's the proof they really did wear these things. And I must say, this guy looks like he's proud to be part of it too. I like his Schnurrbart. Well, before we leave the fire dirk subject, I just want to show you this particular piece too. You're all looking at it and say, "Oh, what the heck is that?" Well, this comes from Alsace-Lorraine. And for you guys that know a little bit about German history, Alsace-Lorraine belonged to France, and then Germany took it and it belonged to Germany, then France took it back and it belonged to Germany. But at the time, during the Reich period and the Imperial period, Germany did own Alsace-Lorraine. Today it's part of France again. And they had their own fire department with their own particular motif for the dirks that they wore. This example has a long plain blade with double fullers and a leather scabbard. I'm not sure whether it's maker marked. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there we go. This dates it right there. It was made by WK&C, and it's a 1900 vintage piece. Very difficult to find these because Alsace-Lorraine is not a big place, and you know, all these years, 100 years later, here it is, we finally find one. So on that, we're going to go and we're going to look at some fire dress axes. All right, now we're going to talk about fire dress axes. These axes were worn during parades and festivals and things like that. It was an opportunity for the firemen to glamorize their uniform a little bit, and apparently they were quite popular because we see a lot of them around. Majority of them that you see are similar to these three pieces here. Each one is a little bit different in that the bottom fittings, this one is very jazzy, this one is somewhat jazzy, and this has nothing on it. The heads are very similar, and the escutcheon plates, some are longer than others or whatever, but that's basically what they look like. The heads were made of steel, and they were nickel plated in most cases, as were all the mounts. The handles are a hardwood that was painted black. The nice part about these, you can pick them up for $400, $500, $600, depending on the little bit of deluxe to them or whatever. So they're inexpensive. And just imagine if you wanted to collect fire axes, you could have say about an 8-foot wide wall, put some velvet behind it, and boy, put about 20 of those up there, and that's going to look pretty impressive, I'll tell you. While you're sipping a drink at night, I'm sure it'll give you a lot of pleasure. I used to know a collector that, he had about 40 of them all hanging in his room, and they looked really cool. So that's the basic types, and then you'll see, well, this is sort of a basic, but it's a little bit better. Notice all of the ribs for handhold, and the scutcheon plates are kind of different, and the head has a little wider thrust to it than the others. So that's a more interesting piece. But then there were also deluxe models that you could buy. These are very, very beautiful and very intricate. The heads are all etched with fire scenes, and the etching is absolutely dynamite. It is really, really something. Again, a nickel-plated head, and they also have the hanging rings for them. And normally there's a dedication plate on the handle, and in the case of this example, the original owner, he put a fire police insignia on the dedication panel. So, a Third Reich axe with a swastika on it. There you go. Sometimes you'll see dedications in these panels also. And then for senior forestry people, you could buy a gilded example. It has the same fire scenes etched into it, and really fun to look at and study. Very, very nice, nice things. These axes, at least the deluxe ones, they're not normally maker marked, but I have seen them with Horster's mark on the top here. So I suspect that Horster at least made some of them. I don't know that, but it's based on what I've seen. I think that's the case. But again, though, aren't they really elegant and beautiful? So then there were also times in the fire department, like most bureaucracies, where people had been with the department for 50 years and they're going to retire. And if they were, I guess, well loved, everybody chipped in and bought a fancy fire axe. And I'll show you what a couple of them look like. These are very, very difficult to come by. This elegant example, it shows some age, but it has a dedication in the panel on the grip. Beautiful etched head. It's a shame there's a little age in there, but you can kind of tell what it used to look like. And one of the straps is here, and the other one's missing. They even engraved the escutcheon plates on it. See that? The oak leaves in there. And then the dramatic part of it, the handle is made of a carved ivory. Very, very beautiful. You know, if you were in the fire department for 50 years, I would think that you'd really like receiving something like that. It's a tremendous gift. And I'll show you one more. This one is in my personal collection that I've had for many years. This was given as a 50-year birthday gift. The lettering is pretty faded from the years because it's over 100 years old, but it's the only box that I've ever seen with one of these in, and then inside is this beautiful, gorgeous thing. I just love it. The head is all etched, and has a presentation panel on it mentioning the man's name and his years. in the fire department, and both of the hangers are still there. And then on top of it, it has an ivory handle, but look how it's all hand turned. And if the turning wasn't enough, they actually there's little tiny twisted wire on the tips of the ribs, and a beautiful finial on the end. So that's something really really nice. It's dated 1903. So, and it has a lot of, I think on the other side, no, the other side's plain, but you might like to look at that dedication if the camera can get it, because it's fascinating. And talk about history, huh? I mean, just really, really, really beautiful. Who wouldn't want that? So I thought I would keep this one. I've had it for many, many years, and it ain't going anywhere. And then, just to conclude things, there were little gizmos that you could buy. Maybe before I get to that, I'll show you what's probably the rarest picture you'll ever see. I looked for years and finally found a picture of a fireman actually wearing a dress axe. See him there? That is really a rare picture, and I have a close-up of it too underneath here. You can maybe see it even better. See, there it is. And it looks like he's at some kind of a parade here or whatever. He may be keeping the crowd down or whatever. It looks like this man has a drum. But that proves that these axes were certainly worn. And I wish you well finding another picture of one being worn, because that's a real task. And then there's little things like this gizmo. I think is pretty neat. It's a fireman's helmet that's mounted on a marble pedestal, and it has the chin strap on it, and it also has this was leather on fire helmets as a neck shield. So that's kind of a cool thing, and I'll show you what firemen's helmets look like. If you remember when I showed you the catalog, you saw some pictures of helmets. These are the two types that you normally see. This one has the aluminum cone on the top. These are thought to be earlier than the ones without the cone. And it has the police insignia on it, which is a decal like a regular helmet. And these helmets all have two sets of vent holes here. Then on the other side it has the national insignia. They're fairly lightweight. And then they have a liner that's all leather, and a chin strap here that goes around the neck. And they have a little pad in the bottom, a lot of them, so it was more comfortable to wear. But they make a great decoration in your collecting room. And then the later types are basically the same, except there's no cone. Still has the air vents, the fire police insignia on the one side, and the national insignia on the other. And the liner on this is a much brighter color, and the drawstring is missing from it, but the chin strap's still there and still intact, and then it has the pad down the bottom. Also, this helmet has, see these leather tongues here, 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 here. There, that was the spot where you attach the leather neck shield to. And sometimes you'll see fire helmets with the shield still on it, but most of the time you don't. So that's a good accoutrement to look for. So with that, I think that's about all I can think of to tell you about fire things. And again, if you liked what you saw, start collecting them. I'm sure that Chester Larson is available to give you some tips if you have a rare maker or something like that. I think they're worthwhile. And again, most of the fire items are fairly reasonably priced. Not the ivory handled ones and the fancy engraved ones, but the basic stuff is. So I enjoyed talking to all you guys again, and we'll do it in another 3 weeks or so. I don't know what the topic will be then, but I'll think of something. So in the meantime, I guess you can all start worried about Christmas and getting your shopping done and stuff like that. So if I can help you with anything, send me an email. I get a lot of them. We get a lot of people that watch these presentations, so it's very fulfilling for me, and I appreciate everybody's compliments. It's makes me feel good inside. At my age, I need something to feel good inside. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you the next time.